Hey guys, Albert Varacallo here. I have a special guest with me today, James Blackburn, owner of Power to Win Sports, and he does the coast to coast camps. I'll let you talk a little bit more about yourself, James, but happy to have you on here.
Hey, yeah, Albert, I appreciate you reaching out and having me as a guest. Like you said, I'm James Blackburn. I live in North Carolina, so East Coast guy. Been kind of in North Carolina my whole life. But as you mentioned, I own a sports agency. We represent pro basketball players, and it's called Power to Win Sports. Coming on to my 8th year of doing that. And then Coast to Coast International Basketball Showcase, I actually launched that last year. My business partner is George Nessman, and George is actually out in California, but George is an ex-college coach, coached at the D1 level for a long time, head coach at San Jose State, was an assistant at Cal, was on the junior college scene for years and years, and he's got a wealth of knowledge. So I was really fortunate to be connected to him years ago, and we launched the international camps last year, and they went really well. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm involved in now.
Yeah, I mean, I like your story because you keep building and building and networking and connecting with people, and it's cool to see that, and you're just trying to help other people out. So, I mean, I'm curious. I'm sure other people are curious, like how you actually got involved. I don't know if you want to take me through, like, you got any cool like high school stories taking your way up through college, or how'd you get involved in like the sports and representing basketball and athletes and pros?
Well, I mean, it's kind of I could do the short story. I mean, I've loved basketball my whole life. Started playing when I was 5. Played all the way up through. Played in high school, and then when I was in college, I just played on the club team at a D2 school. Really, I wanted to be. I guess my sophomore year is kind of when I knew, like, hey, I want to make a full-time profession of being in basketball, and I
Yeah.
always wanted to be an NBA scout, right? So I was a sport management major. And by the time I got to my senior year, I was able to secure an internship with the Charlotte Bobcats with
Wow.
basketball operations. So that was like really big for me. It was 2009, the year they were with. They had Larry Brown as a coach. So I was able to spend the season with them and be in practice every day with Larry, and just it was an awesome experience. Learned a lot of stuff, did a lot of scouting projects, different things. So I was kind of hoping that would lead into a scouting job or a basketball ops job, but that was 2009, so the economy was really suffering. So
Yeah.
not the year to be doing an internship with an NBA team, but it still led me to I kind of bridged that into becoming a high school basketball coach. So I went back home, and then I coached high school ball for 3 years. And when I was doing that, I was doing AAU coaching. So at the higher level AAU in my hometown. So did that for 3 years, and then I ended up doing AAU coaching for 6 years. But then after coaching high school ball, I was like, getting involved. I had been working for a company called Basketball Elite that does like Marcus Shockley and those guys. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had been working with him since I was in college, like early on, freshman, sophomore year. I had done some work with some ABA teams here in Winston when I was
Yeah.
in college. So I kind of, got my feet wet a little bit and started working basketball camps, and, between working college camps and, started to work some D-League tryouts, and then doing scouting, and the scouting kind of bridged from scouting high school guys to starting to scout like semi-pro guys, and then starting to scout international guys and college players. So like everything just kind of built its way up, and you meet more and more people. And then I started doing some scouting work for like bigger agencies, like scouting their NBA guys, and they would pay me for scouting reports. So I was doing that. And I mean, none of it was full time. I was just kind of hustling, just doing little side jobs, just
Yeah.
staying afloat. Well, then Power to Win Sports started, I would say, probably, let's see here, this is 2012. I would say probably a year or two after I stopped coaching high school, probably about 2 years, maybe 3 after that. And it was started by a guy out west, and he actually found me through some mutual people, and offered me a full-time job to like come on board with him and, essentially run all the basketball for him. He was the guy that financed the company. He had a bunch of cool ideas. So he launched it, but like I was there and I was the only employee. So I kind of I did all the scouting, all the representation of players, all, getting the players jobs, the training of the players, running day to day, everything.
Wow.
And I didn't have much experience other than just, doing some work for a few agencies and, helping out a little bit. So I had a little bit of connections, but not a ton as far as internationally. So we launched, it was like April, I think, or like maybe March. So like the season in college was kind of done. So we didn't like get a chance to scout players,
Yeah.
right? So like we launched in, and then first year we had 3 clients, got them all jobs overseas somehow, and then or 2 overseas, 1 in the D League at the time, and now fast forward to 7, 8 years later, and I bought the company 2 years ago from them. So now we're here. So that's
That's,
kind of the short version.
I didn't even know that built it all the way up through. So how do you find you?
It was actually through LinkedIn, like some mutual connections, and
Yeah.
like he reached out to me. He like saw my profile, and I had always done a great job of keeping my LinkedIn profile really active.
Yeah.
And, I guess there was somebody else that like we were mutually connected with, and he found me and just said, "Hey, it looks like you've got a ton of basketball experience." And I've been a big believer in LinkedIn ever since.
Yeah, for real. I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't necessarily get you started, but it got you basically your first full-time gig in the industry, which,
It was,
it's tough to break in.
no, for sure. I mean, it was definitely a huge blessing, and yeah, I never, me and him actually still talk, so it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And LinkedIn, who would have known? LinkedIn get you a basketball job, and you continue to build and take it to new levels, and with the camps and stuff. And I want to get to that a little bit later on, like the coast to coast camps, because I think that's going to be big. But you kind of told me about how you got started and stuff. Do you remember who your first client was?
Yeah, so that's actually a really cool story. So I told you we got started like in March. Well,
Yeah.
that April I had gone to the Portsmouth Invitational, the PIT,
Yeah.
which, for those who don't know, is like an event in Portsmouth, Virginia, a small little area, and it's been going on for about 65, 66 years now. And they invite the top 64 seniors from college, and they bring in all the NBA teams, ton of international teams, agents, and they all come diverge to this little high school, and they watch the players play for like 4 straight days. And
Yeah.
it's my favorite event. This would have been my 9th year going to it, but they canceled it. But
Yeah.
I was actually staying in a hotel, and I was riding an elevator up with the guy, and he like saw one of my bags, like was from when I was coaching high school ball. He was like, "Hey, are you involved in basketball?" We started talking. And evidently, like, he went to church with a guy. He was like, "Hey, this guy goes to my church in Greek." We discussed, we were both from near Winston-Salem,
Yeah.
North Carolina. He was in Greensboro. And he was like, "Hey, there's this guy. He's like 6'9" in my church. I think he just got playing D1 ball somewhere. He didn't really know much about him." And like, I gave him my card. And then like when I had gone home, we ended up connecting, following up. And the guy that he was talking about, his name was Julius Brooks. And
Huh?
I actually still represent him. And Julius played at Loyola in Maryland, 6'9", 240 pounds, just a beast. He didn't really have great numbers in college, but I signed him. He was my first guy I signed, and he actually played in the ABA like for a couple of games.
Yeah.
And then we actually got him a job in Germany like right after Christmas. And now, 8 years later, he's still playing professionally. He's been to 15 different countries, and
Wow.
I mean, it's crazy. But that was my first client. And then I signed Gary Talton, was honestly one of my better clients I've ever signed. He ended up playing in the G League right away, or the D League then, for the Vipers. Actually set the single season assist record for the Vipers, the Rockets affiliate. And his team was loaded. That was the year they had Chris Johnson and James Johnson, and Robert Covington was on his team. I mean, they were loaded. And he just, was getting the ball to guys, and they were just making shots. So
All you had to do is make good passes on that team, because
that's it, man.
those
He
guys
had
are
19
stacked.
assists one game. He was crushing it. So, and then I signed my last client, Shamar Bowden, who played at ECU. I ended up finding him at an exposure camp in Charlotte. So, like, you got started, and
Yep.
like I said, I just had to find guys different places, and then, build it from 3 clients, kept building it up. So,
I mean, how many clients you at now? Do you have that number?
right now I've got 34.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the active one. And I mean, If you want to go through some of your stats too, because I know you sent quite a few people overseas, and I mean, to start off with, it was a Julius. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. Andy's still going around. I mean,
Yeah, my goal for him is 10 plus years. I keep telling him, you get to 10 years, you can retire, but you're not stopping until you get to 10 years.
he's not allowed, right?
Yeah, no.
So LinkedIn and church have been the two biggest networking places for you. I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not what you would expect, but I mean, I love that. I mean, me and Sixty were talking about a little bit about how you need faith in minor league basketball because you're constantly praying that everything goes right so you can get it going. So that's good. I want to ask some questions because sometimes it helps to like get into some of the more serious ones. And what I'm curious about is you've seen quite a bit. You started in college, kind of seeing pro basketball. I'm curious, like, is there something in professional basketball that you weren't necessarily like prepared for, getting into this industry?
As far as the agent side,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was funny when I first signed like those three guys, I just literally thought, I was so naive. I thought, okay, I'm gonna sign these players and then they're gonna stay with me. And then the following year, I'm gonna sign a few more guys. And I just thought that I would represent the same players year after year, all
Yep.
the way until they retired,
Yep.
and then just keep adding like 3 or 4 guys new each year, right?
Yeah.
And I had no idea like how players go through agents like socks.
Quick.
And
Yeah.
even when you do a good job, and thankfully pretty much all my players that we don't work together, a lot of them we still talk, we're still cool and everything, but players are constantly leaving, going to different agencies. I've taken I've had players go from one agent to me. It's like, so the level of, I guess, there's not a lot of loyalty in the business, so
Yeah.
from anybody. And so I was really naive with that, and now of course I've learned. So I would say that was the biggest shock initially, was that, holy cow, like, there's just so much change
Yeah.
everywhere. And you have to learn how to adjust. Players do, agents do, coaches do. There's just, professional basketball is just so much up and downs, is the other thing. It's a lot of up and downs.
Just being able to handle the rejection. It's not that they don't like you. Like, that's cool that you've been able to keep more of like the personal side of it, cool. But, business side, it just is what it is, right?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. And that's the other thing, like the recruiting side. I mean, I recruit now, and it's like, you get told no, 10 times before a yes. I mean, and you think you've got a guy, and then, he goes somewhere else. And I mean, yeah, I've been rejected quite a bit.
So getting in this industry, you definitely got to be able to take rejection. I mean, I know I'm still learning my way through, even just with our organization, when you get someone that says no, or they go somewhere else, and, guys change teams all the time, but, on your level, it's, a little bit larger, but, yeah, it's cool. I really respect the fact that you're able to keep like kind of the personal side of things, cordial with the guys, because you never know what happened, because they can always come back too.
Yeah, no, I've had a lot of success actually with guys, signing with another agent, and then, we had such a good relationship through the recruiting that when they do fire that agent, then they, come back to me, or, some of my best players actually I've gotten from doing that, from, them just coming back.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, I'm an attorney by trade, and sometimes, in these businesses, in these industries, you throw in some non-compete clauses. It's like the agent side of it. It's just like, you're good to go wherever you want. Like, there's no non-compete. You can sign with whoever, whenever.
Yeah, there's there's a lot of stuff like that tries to get done, but it's hard to litigate that stuff.
Yeah, not even worth it. I'm curious, like, I kind of wrote down, we talked a little bit, like, I am curious, like, and it's going to change a little bit now because everything that's going on in the world, but like, kind of like a typical, work day for you. Like, I don't know, how many, viewers or listeners are interested in getting the agency business. I know when I started out, I was pretty set that like, I want to be a sports agent, and that may be down the road too, but it's like a typical work week, your work-life balance, and then like how you cater to, you said you had 30 plus clients. Like, how do you keep them all happy, and how do you, actually have a life outside of basketball? It can probably consume you, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, I'll kind of answer it in reverse order. So,
Yeah.
I don't, basketball, it's got to be something you love, because,
Yeah.
I do it all the time. It's a 7-day-a-week job, especially I have nobody working for me. So I'm the one. So if a player has a problem, they come to me, right? But honestly, having that many guys, it's not as difficult when this is your full-time job because, you have busier times than others, but I have like systems and communicating. I mean, I talk to every one of my guys at least once a week, but many times it's multiple times a week. But once you get them all in jobs overseas or, in professional and like things go pretty smoothly, then it's like, you're not really having to deal with that many problems. Now, if you have 34 guys and you have 34 problems, then it's a mess, right?
Yeah.
But like,
like recently, right?
They what?
Like recently, right?
Oh yeah, that was a mess getting everybody home. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, that was one of the most stressful times. But other than that, I mean, it's really different times of the year. But as far as like the schedule, again, it's like I would say on a typical day, no matter what time of the year it is, it's just a lot of calls, a lot of emails, a lot of texting, just a lot of communications. Number one for the whole thing. But then as far as like secondary, it just depends what part of the year you're in. Like if I'm in the college season, then like my main thing is okay, just like having guys, just keeping up with them, right? They're all usually in jobs at that point, so just keeping everything steady there, and then recruiting like new guys, meaning going to games, talking to coaches, talking to families, right? And then when the season's over, which is where we are now we're in like prime recruiting time. And normally, the guys overseas would be still playing, but getting towards the end, well, now they're back home. So now it's like, okay, they're done. So it's making sure that they have all their film, everything's ready to start marketing everybody like, May. So like May till August is like heavy marketing. That's like the time where everybody signs. And then when we get back to, I would say like the most dead months are probably like October is a really dead month because most of the guys are already signed and the college hasn't quite started yet. So like that's a lot of preparing, and then like November is still a little quiet and then it really starts heating up. So the summer months, I mean, I would say from April through August are my busiest months,
Yeah, and then sometimes it picks up in that, December, January, right? Because then, guys, if they either get released or something, or guys who didn't necessarily get that initial job, they're able to get overseas, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I've had guys literally sign probably all 12 months out of the year, somewhere. At some point in all the years I've been in this business, I think out of all 12 months, I've probably had a guy sign a contract to play somewhere because there's always basketball being played.
So I'm also curious too, because you got guys going to different countries and you're always communicating. Your phone's always on, or you put it on silent whenever you're about to sleep? Are you?
When I go to sleep, like I put it on silent because from the overseas teams, I mean, when I wake up every morning, I can't remember the last time I woke up and did not have at least like 2 or 3 messages, or usually it's not missed calls, but I might have an occasional missed calls, but it's always like a message. Now the night that this whole thing happened with Corona and like all my guys were coming back, that whole night I barely slept. Like I think I went to bed like at midnight, and then I had set my alarm for like 2 and then set it for like 4 and then set it for like 6 because I had to get up every 2 hours, and then like I had missed calls. So I had to like call people back, and that was a rough night.
I don't envy you. Hopefully you're caught in your sleep at this point, because I can imagine the plane tickets and stuff you had to organize just to get guys back, because this is definitely something you've never dealt with. So they don't prepare you for this. Your internship or anything along those lines, they never prepared you for this, did they?
No, there's not a lot that could prepare you for this business other than just real world experience, honestly.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things we were talking about with when I had 61 was, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because there's always going to be some type of bump in the road. Depends on how big that bump is, but I know you just roll with the punches, and it's cool because I can tell like the passion you have for basketball. I have a passion for basketball too. It's just like, it's not that probably the times with like getting the plane tickets and stuff like that is work, but like the majority of it, it's probably fun just like watching ball, like watching your clients do well. Like that's gotta be like pretty rewarding.
no, it is. That's the most rewarding part of the job is when you when you get a really good contract for a guy, but then the most rewarding part is like seeing those guys play well and like seeing them get player of the year or something like that. But it's sometimes you have to juggle. It's easy to look at all the negatives, like, oh dang, like, when a guy wins, okay, that's cool, but then you have 3 guys lose. When you have that many guys overseas, it just really, it's like on a Saturday is almost when everybody plays.
Yep.
So like Saturdays during the season, it was a really good day when like 70% of my guys won. But then if I had a day where like everybody lost, it's like, man, this day sucks. You know?
Yeah.
It's almost like I compare it to if, you know, I've bet on basketball games, right? Or
Yeah.
if you're a sports gambler, I
Yeah.
mean, think about you have money on every game that any client plays in. And think about the stress level of like watching those games. I mean, there was games this year I couldn't watch. I just said it causes me too much stress to watch the
Yeah.
game because I have multiple clients in the game. And, you know, when something bad happens, it's either it could be my guy's fault. And then I'm worried that's like money. You know, every
Yep.
time a guy makes a bad play, like that could cost them money. Or if he, so like, and I'm yelled at the coach and it's like, you know, I have money on the game essentially. So it's just, it caused my blood pressure to go too high. Like I could not watch the games.
Yeah, I mean, I like that analogy. That's pretty funny because it's like I can imagine it's nerve wracking. I mean, I do that with fantasy football, which is on a completely different level. It's like I'm not even watching these games. I don't know how my guy's doing. I mean, that's on a completely different scale because you're playing with that's your livelihood right there. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of curious. I don't think I threw this on here, but it was. I am curious. Like, what prepares you to like negotiate with overseas teams? Like, was that from kind of being the employee with Powderwind, and then like, can you take me
Well, I
through?
mean, I did all that like the whole time, but like
Okay.
a lot of people don't understand this. So there's not a lot of negotiating when
Yeah.
it comes to this business, especially at the overseas levels, especially at those lower to mid levels. So my first few years, you know, like, okay, so my guy Gary Talton played in the D League. There was no negotiating to that. They had 3 levels of contract and they just gave you one. Well, then my other 2 guys, we were just happy to get them offered. So it was like whatever offer came in, you know, we took it. So
Yeah.
like my first 2 years, I would say that's the way it was. Like whatever guy had, you know, we were just happy to get that offer. Well, then, you know, you start getting guys that play better, and then the better they play, the more leverage we have,
Yep.
right? But still, I mean, you know, playing overseas is not easy. There's a million guys that try it. There's a very few spots. So, you know, I've had the leverage. I mean, I love it when I have heavy leverage with like a big client and we can actually turn down a lot of jobs, and then there is more negotiating. But you can't, you know, if you only have 2 offers and you know one of them is better than the other, then there's very little negotiating you could do. And you got to be careful. Like if you only have one offer and you sit there and turn it down, you know, and then nothing else comes in, then, you know, you may have just cost yourself money and your client money. So, and I mean, you know, it's negotiating. It's just simple stuff. I mean, you know, if you want 5,000, then you might ask for 6, and then they, you know, you meet in the middle, and I mean, it's simple stuff. It's, you know, there's different things you negotiate as far as bonuses or can we get an extra ticket or whatever, but it's not like, I mean, we're not negotiating, you know, LeBron James level contracts every year. It's not.
Not yet, right?
No, not yet. No.
Yeah. Well, I think that'll be a good kind of segue into, what I wanted to get out there too was, gaining that leverage and building your resume up. And one thing, obviously being in, Premier Basketball League, being in the U.S. minor leagues, I want to talk a little bit, with you about building up that leverage, building up that resume, and like kind of what you've seen in the U.S. minor leagues. And I know I brought up like, positives and negatives, and like we had talked kind of before we even got on, this video, was just guys turning down U.S. minor league opportunities. I don't know if it's because they think they're better than, or they think something's going to come up, and then they get lost in the shuffle. So maybe you can kind of expand on that if you could.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of take the whole, you know, nugget of what you just said. It kind of all runs in together. But to get leverage, you know, one, you can't have any gaps in your resume. Okay. And to get leverage, nobody hardly comes out of college with leverage unless you're a high, you know, major D1 guy, you know, and then you have leverage. But if you're a guy that, you know, for most people, you know, you're gonna be lucky to get a job overseas for most guys. So you have to just start off wherever you could go. It doesn't matter how. I always tell guys, it doesn't matter where you start. It matters, you know, where you go from there. So you can start wherever. So if you go there and you put up numbers and you get like accolades that Eurobasket puts out, like the biggest accolade you could get is Player of the Year. Eurobasket puts out like a Player of the Year for like almost every league, right?
Yeah.
In Europe, Asia, all kinds of places. And if you're able to get that Player of the Year tag, then like boom, you just got it's the MVP, right? So you're looking at then like doubling your money and getting a lot of offers. So like that's what everybody goes for, and like winning championships. And like those are the things that really stand out. Can you lead a league in scoring? Can you lead a league in rebounding? Can you, get defensive player of the year? Can you get import of the year? Like all these tags kind of mean something, right? So that's like ultimately like how you get leverage. If you're a big guy, then you're probably gonna have more leverage than a guard, and that's probably gonna be, almost your entirety of your career. I mean, guards have to just almost keep fighting to keep jobs, whereas like bigs, they're allowed to mess up more almost. Like, they can have spots that don't work out and they'll get second and third and fourth chances, whereas a guard, he's not gonna get maybe that second, third chance, right? So those minor leagues are important because like we talked about before we went live, I mean, if we're sitting here in December and you graduated back in, March, is when you finished up college and you don't have a job, if you haven't played that year, you need to show something on your resume. So the minor leagues give a great opportunity to guys to, fill in those gaps, and European teams hate seeing gaps in a resume.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one of the biggest things I've heard from like multiple people. That's people, players, agents, everything. And I'm glad you brought that up. It's just those gaps, because like I'm sure you hear it all the time. Like, I love this game, I'll do whatever it takes. But then it's like, okay, you want to go to DuBois, Pennsylvania and play minor league basketball? It's no, I'm too good for that. But I understand it's kind of a hit to the ego, especially if you're coming from, a legitimate D2, small D1. Like, I can imagine it's tough, but it's really a grind, because in the future I want to talk. I mean, I can imagine minor league baseball is very similar too. It's just, you got to do what it takes. And I'm curious, like, if you've had a couple recent guys who have played in some of these U.S. minor league basketball leagues that have gone on and played overseas, and if that's been kind of the fact that they kept playing and were in shape and playing against, because there's a lot of talent in the U.S. still. That had to have helped them, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, the thing is, it's a triangle, Albert, that kind of goes up. All these guys that they're playing high school ball, they were probably really good if they got, a D1 offer or even a D2 offer. They were one of the best. And then they go to college and, they see it gets a little smaller, and then they become really good at college, right? And then it's like, well, you were really good, but there's hundreds of colleges, hundreds. So then all those guys have a pretty good player. So then you go up and there's less and less jobs. And then you get up there and there's just not enough jobs for the level of players. And unfortunately, you take probably a lump. There could be 500 players out there that all come from similar levels, and they all look almost identical, especially on paper. They all average this, they're the same height, and they all like look so much the same. So, this guy might get a job, but this guy over here might be better than him, but they're so similar that it comes down to being in the right place, right time, having the right resume, having the right agent, having the right team that wants them at the right time. So honestly, a lot of it comes down to that. And, so, I mean, it is hard, maybe for a D1 guy to look at minor league, but I mean, you look at every other business and profession. I mean, if you want to be this or this, you almost have to intern or do something for free. Or like, I mean, I worked for years in basketball for free, like volunteering at different things. Then I started getting paid like a little bit to do camps or to do like assignments or projects. And then it finally, bridged into where I'm at now. But like, I didn't just get offered a full-time job in this right after college. So same thing as a player, like, you're not going to just go. I mean, very few guys go from here to the NBA or here to a big contract. They have to work their way up. So it's very similar. But I've got one good example. Arsenio Arrington is one of my clients, and he played in the NABL. Yep. And I actually discovered him, out of my camp. So he came to my camp, and then, he had just graduated, but he was playing in the NABL. And then I got him a job in Germany. But like, he kind of used that NABL experience to kind of, show, I think it really improved his game, and, kind of showed him there was more guys out there, and he was a small, played at a small school in AIA. And, that was a good example.
And you noticed him at one of your camps?
Yeah, he came to my camp. Actually, I did a camp the year before I launched Coast to Coast. I did like my own camp. I just didn't have it branded Coast to Coast. Uh-huh. And that was like my first camp. Me and Marcus Shockley actually did it, and we called it the Pro Basketball Circuit Combine, and it was really successful. And we had good coaching staff, everything like that. And then the following year, which was last year, I actually just essentially did the same camp, just named it Coast to Coast. So
yeah, I like what you're doing, because it's like, I kind of have this downtime at this, but man, your schedule must pick up in the summertime, like May on, like you got to be swamped, because I know we're talking and I know things have died down a little bit, but I'm impressed with what you're building, and it's really funny. I gotta make sure we give a shout out to Billy Clapper, because he's kind of the connector guy, because your name has come up multiple times, but really it was Billy. And it's funny being around basketball enough, you just meet people who know people, and the world ends up getting smaller. So I was really thankful he ended up connecting us, and then we went down and played in that ECBL showcase and got to meet you in person. I've always had good talks with you, and I really respect your hustle, because I didn't even know some of like your starting points and what you build it up into now, and it makes it that much more special that you've seen a lot, and now you're doing your own thing. And it's kind of like you did work your way up through the U.S. minor league basketball system in a sense, and now you're representing these guys. It's really cool. So I want you to kind of talk about these camps, because how do you end up recruiting, like what you do? Because I remember coming out of D3, you get get your email flooded with some camps to come to. It's like, and like you said, guards are a dime a dozen. And how do you stand out? Like, what do you look for at these camps, and how do you get involved with these camps? And maybe you can talk about that.
Yeah, so I'll talk about the camp scene. So like I've been familiar with the camp scene since I was in college. I actually worked camps for overseas basketball combines. Joe Dender runs those.
Okay.
And I've been working his camps. I still help with his camps, and I was working those. His first ever camp was back like 2000. It was like, I want to say when I was in college. I mean, it's probably been 11, 12 years. It was in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I worked his camp. Like I just volunteered at it as a scout. This was when I was in college, and he just let me come and do some write-ups, whatever. Well, then I did that for a couple of years, and then like a few years later, he started paying me to like scout, and then I started coaching at the camps, and I still like help with his camps. Even now, he does a tour overseas that I've been blessed to be able to coach in Romania the last 2 years. So he's let me do that.
Oh, wow.
So I used to go out to Vegas all the time, doing his camps. Right.
Yeah.
And then when I got into the agent business, I would, send guys to his camp, and then I would go to pretty much every camp there was in Vegas. I mean, I would be there for a week and a half, and I would
There's so many out there too.
Yeah, I would find out all the locations, all the camp names, and I would go to every camp, meet people, and see how the camps are ran.
Yeah.
I knew the good camps, I knew the bad camps, and all these college coaches and people used to always say, "Hey, which camps you go to?" And I used to give them lists like, "Hey, here's the camps you go to, here's the camps you don't go to," right? Well, then when I bought the company Power to Win, like because before that I never really worried about doing a camp, but I had already ran, like with Marcus, me and him had ran showcase camps in high school, years and years before that.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of experience working camps, running camps, doing the camps, all this. So when I bought Power to Win, I was like, I'm going to, I've seen the good camps. I've seen the bad camps. I know enough people. I can run a legit camp as well as anybody. So that's when I did the one with Marcus, and it went well. And then, like I said, last year I partnered with George, and I already known George for a while, and he had a lot of connections, and, really good guy, really organized. So we knew, like when we did our camps, we knew we wanted to we weren't going to just run camps like some BS camps, right? We wanted to make sure they were the most organized camps out there, really clean, professional. We wanted, the camps to be professional. We wanted to represent professional basketball. So did that. And then we also wanted all of our coaches at the camps that were working it to be like active pro coaches, either, semi-pro, overseas, G League, we wanted that. And, we wanted to give these guys real exposure. So we invited a lot of agents to come watch. Our Vegas camp last year, we actually had 70 teams come through the doors. Wow. That were either coaches that are at our event, that were coaching at it, or, coaches that came in from outside. Now, Vegas is easier because of the summer league. Everybody's there.
Yeah.
But even our North Carolina camp was really successful. And last year from our 3 camps, we had 55 guys get contracts. But a lot of that too was like agents coming to our camps. Like in Vegas, we had 10 different agencies there, and like several agents, signed players they hadn't seen before, kind of like what I did the year before with Arsenio,
Yeah.
right? And I actually signed a player last year from one of the camps, so I'm always there, obviously. And you never know when some guys could come in that's like, where'd this 6'10" guy come from? And
Yeah.
so, and you start doing background work. And then the cool thing about the camp is it gives the agents a chance to actually see him in person, but then like talk to him without him being in college, having conversations and really getting to know him. So that's where we're at now. But I mean, camps are, I tell everybody, it's like, look, it doesn't hurt anybody, Now there's going to be some guys that gets help more at camps. Like if you're a big man, yes, you're going to be seen more at a camp than just a guard. But at the same time, there's nobody that can go to a camp that's like, this is going to hurt your career, if you play well, right?
Yep.
So like, I kind of compare it to like, if you're let's say you're an NAIA assistant or a junior college assistant or even a D1 assistant, or even a D1 head coach, like everybody goes to the Final Four, right?
Yep.
Like it's a networking spot. It doesn't matter which level of basketball you're on. Well, the same thing at a camp. Like you could go to a camp, you could be a 3-year vet or a D3 rookie, right? And it kind of lets everybody meet each other, and it's a good spot to like keep your name active, and you never know who's going to see you. It could be, I think guys get a misconception at camps. They think, oh, I'm going to go and like a coach is going to see me and then I'm going to sign a contract that day. Well, like that, I'll go ahead and be honest, like that very, very rarely happens, right?
Unless
Well,
you're
like,
about 6'9" or 6'10", right?
yeah, even then though, like you're never going to sign something right then. Like
Yeah.
these coaches, even if they see you and love you, they usually go back and they've got their list and they're going to add you to their list. And then, they'll talk to their GM or they'll talk to their owner, and they have to go through different hoops, Like I had one of my players actually attend Joe's camp years ago. That was a big man that played at Clemson, and he played for a coach from Germany, and the coach loved him. And like, we ended up having like discussions for like a week after that. And then they finally offered the contract like a month later, but like he was seen at that camp, So, and that's happened a lot at our camps. Like a coach loves a kid, but then it doesn't happen till later. And then sometimes it could be where like, hey, I really like you, I'm gonna watch where your career goes. And then like 2 years later, he remembers you because of that camp. And it's like, okay, boom, now you're on my level, right? Like now you're on that level. Or, hey, I came to this camp, I had an agent that liked me, and then that agent signed me, and then he got me a job. Or I went to this camp and I was able to use that film to, send to an agent or send to a team. Or I went to this camp and like I met a player, and me and him became pretty tight, and then he got a job, and then his team needed another player, and he remembered me because he was like the last guy I met. So there's just, again, there's not a direct path to a lot of these places. And going to a camp, the ones that go and really network themselves and shake a lot of hands and put a smile on their face, and then you couple that with playing well and being vocal on the floor and being a leader and doing all those little things, and at the end of the day, you've got to be able to play. If you do all those little things, but then it's just an average player, you're not going to make it. But you could be a pretty darn good player and not do any of those little things, or not be professional and not really meet anybody. And yes, you still may get something, but at the same time, lowered your chances. So it's got to be everything. Playing well, networking while you're there, being a good person, being professional, having like some sort of resume maybe coming in, at least playing somewhere, and then you put all those things together, and then boom, now you gave yourself more of a chance.
And I'm glad you're taking it through all those steps, because it's such a process. And the thing that I like about it, and I obviously keep making plugs for the U.S. minor leagues, just because like there's so many guys I feel like that just fall into the same, like, I'm gonna say like good category. And then you got some of the elite which stand out, and it's a little bit easier for them, maybe they're top D1 school. But there's so many people that fall in here, and it's like, who keeps shifting themselves up to the top? And to me, it usually seems to be the guys that continue to work and play competitively. It's the guys who continue to show up, and it's the guys who act professional. Because I bring it up all the time, it's like, if you have, especially with the guards, you have guards who are very similarly skilled, coming from lower level division schools, and they have an opportunity, like you're going to go with a guy who is consistent, who has more on his resume than just playing basketball. And that's why I always enjoy like getting out in the community. And it's like, I'm sure you would say the same thing. If you see one guy who's on social media that's constantly about partying, having fun out with his friends, is very similar to the guy then skill wise, than the guy who's out in the community doing some good work in community events. Seems like he carries himself well. Like, you got it. Like, if it comes down at the end of the day, like, you're going to go with the guy who's, cleaner. Like, you have to. You don't want to take that risk, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like intel, character references. I mean, like, how do you carry, like you said, how do you carry yourself? Do you carry yourself as a pro? And it's so easy to spot those guys. I mean, you can just, they walk in the gym, okay, he's a pro, he's a pro. And like,
Yeah.
that's in, do you carry yourself with confidence, in a good way? Do you look people in the eye? Do you shake hands? Do you speak, all those things. And just, do you enjoy working out? I mean, I talk to, like, agents talk to college coaches, they talk to your pro coaches, they talk to your semi-pro coaches. I mean, everybody has something to say. And, honestly, if you have one mess up or, sometimes a couple of mess ups, it could really hurt you. Unfortunately, it's an unforgiving business in that regard. And it takes a long time to kind of build your reputation back.
And that's where we talked about. It's like each year you have new guys coming up. So it's like, if you keep falling and you have those slip ups, I mean, I think it's great that you put on the camps, because it allows that opportunity. If you don't have the wheels moving, like, say you played, with our team, the Dream, like, and you got the wheels started, and then you go to a camp and you show out well, and then you start, it's like a train to me. It's like, it's slowly, then you start really moving down the tracks, and then it happens. But it's like, I know, with me, anything that I've seen, it's like, unless you're in this hotbed of talent area, you're not going to go out and go to the YMCA and really get better competitively,
Mm-hmm.
um, to like perform at a camp at the end of the year where you get noticed, unless you really played in some of these US minor leagues. And that's why I always throw it out there. It's like, well, what's your other option? Like, what else are you going to do? You're going to go to the YMCA and play against 50, 40, 50, 60-year-olds? Or are you going to come here and guys who are continuing to play, who are in shape, actually playing games, and then you're ready for that opportunity? Like, so a lot of guys are looking at it just like in the short term, but it's like, it's long-term playing. That's why I'm glad you brought it up. Even the 6'10" guy, like, it's a month later before he gets a contract, like, because
Well, yeah.
they did their I'm assuming background and everything on him.
Yeah, no, I mean they do, and like you've got to come to the camps in shape, and that's another thing too, though. Like some guys just want to come to camps just to get really good run in. I mean, we actually give our coaches a bonus for winning the championship at our camps. That's like
Right.
one of the things. So
Yeah.
like in Vegas, it was funny. We gave the coaches a chip, like a casino chip.
Yep.
So I mean, the coaches are. I mean, these are pro coaches. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not going to just come and BS their way through it. So they want to win. We give them practice time. We try to treat it as real as possible. And so like guys are going hard, and we've got the referees there, you're on film. So, you get some guys come in and I think they're like, holy cow, like this is the first time I'm going against like a pro, like, not only a guy that's another rookie, but a veteran. So it kind of shows you like what level of athleticism you have to have, what level of conditioning you have to have. So it's an eye opener. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I went to the old Bob Gibbons camps. You remember
Okay.
those? And like for me, going to those camps when I was like in 9th, 10th grade, it was like, holy cow, these guys are coming in from opposite side of the states, and you start seeing how good everybody else is.
Yeah.
And I think that's still something that happens at these camps.
Yeah. And that's really cool. Because like, I know you're trying to work with whatever's going on, in the industry. Obviously we're going to hopefully, partner up with those camps and try and make them happen whenever they do. Um, you know, uh, it's, I like that you said it's an unforgiving business. I mean, it's cool, but, kind of I want to keep, tying things in and what, kind of wrap it up. But like, I know you talked about the negatives. It's tough to watch some games sometimes. It's a constant grind. But like, what keeps you going?
I mean, just the love of basketball. I mean, like, there's, I used to have to work a lot of odd jobs, before I did this, like when I was coaching high school ball, and like, you name it, I did it, like, I mean, everything from selling newspapers to working retail to doing all this stuff. And so I always tell myself, man, if I'm able to get it full time, I'm gonna make sure I stick into it. So I mean, that's one of the main things. Just, I mean, my love for basketball, wanting to continue to do it. I mean, look, as long as I'm in it and I get to do what I want to do each day, as far as, I get to watch guys play, I get to train guys, I get to scout guys. I mean, I kind of get to do everything. So that, I mean, ultimately that's what keeps me in it. I mean, just loving what I do. I mean, it's not the Jerry Maguire money, you don't want to get into this business if you think you can make millions. You don't want to get into it. There's different reasons I feel like a lot of people get into it. But you gotta genuinely love, what you do.
Yeah, and it resonates from you, which is really cool. This, your love and your passion for basketball, and I can't help but respect that. But I'm really curious, like, what's the 5 to 10 year plan? Like, where do you see yourself? Where do you want to end up? Like, I know you mentioned initially it was like scouting, and then now
Yeah.
it turned into the agency side of it. Like, are you trying to work your way back, or what are you thinking?
I would love at some point, maybe to branch over to the NBA as an NBA scout, but like, I'm not pursuing it as aggressively as I once was.
Yep.
I mean, I love what I do now. I mean, honestly, if I'm able to, have power to win for the next 30 years and, continue to represent guys overseas, and continue to grow the camps. I mean, I'm perfectly okay with that. I mean, I love what I do. It's just, it's you just kind of continue having to grind your way through it. So.
Yeah. Just to, again, kind of tie things up is, any piece of advice. I mean, I know you've kind of made the plug for the camps, and those are obviously really valuable, because it's like with all the guys, like I said, falling into here, how do you stand out? Like, maybe it's at a camp where you're in shape and you really prepared yourself, but like, you know, any piece of advice on, I know we kind of tied it in with US minor leagues, to overseas, like, you got any like final words, any piece of advice, any little nuggets you kind of hang on to that helps or helps your players out?
Yeah. So for the players, yeah, I mean, you know, be like, understand, be realistic about yourself, is one of the big things. Like,
I
if you're
like that a lot.
unless you're a high major D1 guy that played a ton, and has high level stats, your chance of playing in the NBA is extremely low, ever, let alone, right away. Right. So, like, don't be willing to take any job anywhere. Like, if that's a minor league job, if that's a job overseas paying you a couple $100s a month, if that's, something, an opportunity maybe for you to go to a place and get your master's degree or teach English just to get that experience, whatever it is, going to use it as an experience, like, don't play basketball professionally because you say, I'm gonna make millions at this. Like, the level or the number of guys that actually make it a full-time career where they make a ton of money at it is really low. But like, using it to get experience, using it to get connections, so that's what I would say. And then if you're a guy that's like not necessarily recruited by an agent, you're going to have to go to camps. You're going to have to put together a really good highlight tape of yourself. You have to be your own agent at the end of the day, until
Yeah.
you get yourself to a level that agents are coming after you. Right.
Yeah.
So you've just got to, be able to read websites, like, be able to learn how to use Google. I mean, research things. It's not the hardest job in the world, honestly. I mean, it's really not. It's just a lot of communicating and being able to answer people, just being able to do just basic things. So.
Yeah, and I like that, because it's pretty similar to what Sixty and I talked about too. It's just like a lot of time the standard is kind of low, but
Mhm.
it's funny how many people don't reach that standard. And it's just a lot of times, it's just show up, work hard, do your best, and if you continue to do that, a lot of times the door is just going to open up for you. I mean, it happened to you. Like, it's, you just continue to work hard, and then now you own your own agency, which is awesome. So I mean, I can't, be any more impressed. I mean, I'm looking forward to actually like going to the coast to coast camp. Like, I got respect for you. You've done an awesome job building it up. I didn't even know you had all that background in camps, but you're able to bring, I know you're going to be able to bring all that into your camp, and you already do that. So it's cool. I mean, I'm man of faith. So I'm praying that the camps still happen, because I want to team up and I want to see it and be a part of it. And hopefully even those coaches are able to make it in, because I know you get some high level coaches at your camps too. But at the end of the day, I like that you're passing along the knowledge. It's coming from someone who's been there, done that, seen a lot, and I know you still are continuing to grind and hustle. So I'm sure I like that Chris Paul in the background too. Is that a signed jersey back there too?
Yeah, that's an old one from back when he was with New
New
Orleans
Orleans, yeah,
early on. Yeah.
that's good stuff. Yeah, so James, we'll wrap this up. I just want to thank you for coming along and just sharing your knowledge for people. I think this will go a long way. Like, you'll probably be surprised how many people actually see this and learn something from it. So definitely appreciate your knowledge.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, and I mean, I'll put a plug in for DuBois Dream. I mean, you guys run a terrific professional semi-pro organization. I mean, you've always been great at that, and everybody I've talked to about you, there's never been a negative word said. So you guys do it right in a business where a lot of people don't do it right, and you guys really do stand out with that, and you're continuing. It's cool to see your journey, going from this league to this league, and I think you guys are going to be appealing to a lot of different leagues, probably trying to recruit you away. So,
Yeah,
definitely.
can't wait to see where this heads because your kind words mean a lot. So, we'll end it with that. We'll end on a high note. As I always say, it's great to talk to you, and hopefully we'll get to catch up some more, and hopefully in person too. Like, it was great meeting you last year in North Carolina. Hopefully I'll see you again if we can get that. Fingers crossed in New York too. So,
Yeah.
we'll talk again soon, James.
All right. Thanks, Albert.
Yeah. Take care.